welcome. So today we're going to do a galaxy effect. Really excited about this, and I'm going to break the one big rule that I always say, which is get yourself onto Google and get yourself a nice picture to copy from. But today we're going to go freehand. We're going to see what it looks like. So what we're going to need is an array of colours. Now the reason I do say get a picture is if you're undecisive like me, I can never make my mind up, then I'm too busy wondering what colours I should use to actually get on with the work. So this is where a picture for me gives me that focus. But I'm strong, I've made the decisions. We're going to put a bit of teal, a bit of blue, a bit of violet, a bit of black. Do we need another colour? Maybe a bit of orange. So these are the colours I'm going to go for. Orange is a kind of standby if I'm not happy with what I'm doing. Now when we airbrush this, I'm going to do it on sugar, but I just want to show you the distance thing. So we put a little bit of blue into the top of the airbrush, just a couple of drops, just to show you that distance. So remember, when you're at really close, you're going to get that fine line, and we don't want that. We want a haze. So we're going to come away a little bit and do a gentle haze. This is more of the effect that we're after for this particular thing, because we want to colour the whole thing in. And we only go close when we want to do that fine detail. So a good way of practicing this, I'm going to get my paper and I'm going to fold it in half, like so. And I'm going to get another piece of paper and do exactly the same. So these are going to be my stencils, if you like. And I'm going to hold them down, and then I'm going to airbrush the piece of paper in the middle. So this will just get you practicing that distance. So if I'm really close, I'm getting that line, remember. But if I move away, I'm getting this nice shaded effect. And remember, if this was a cake, then your cake would be in a box, and all of this, what I call mucky colour, would be inside the box. That's how we're working here. So if we want it slightly darker, maybe if you're doing an umbro effect, you'd go darker at the bottom. So always colour the same shade and then go a little bit closer to get that darkness. Don't go too close because you'll get these lines, okay? So I'm going to move this away, and you can see then you get that lovely shaded effect moving up. So that's just a little way of you practicing getting the right distance, and it does make a huge difference. If you're using stencils, you're close. If you're not, then you're doing this nice shaded effect. So we're going to move on now, and you know, we're just going to go for it. Let's do it. I have got a board that's already pre-iced. As you can see, it's got my it's got the icing already on there, and it's just icing sugar. It's nothing fancy. I'm going to pop that on there. Now remember, when I'm working, I do always have a separate piece of paper so I can do my scribbles and make sure I've got the right colour. So that's always there ready. Now what we're going to do is mess around with our colours. Now I know I've got blue in there and I don't want to waste it. And we are going to use a lot of blue. So let's just do some... Oh, there was hardly any in there. So that's fine. We've started. I'm going to put some violet in. This is a lovely pale colour, because I don't want to go too dark with this. And then you need to decide where you're putting your colour. So a bit of blue comes out first, and then it turns to the purple. Now I want this to be quite pale, and maybe just coming through. Now can you see there's a little bit of blue still in there, because it's gone purple and then it's gone a little bit blue again. Let's put more purple. Now, as I'm working, I think I might just want a blue, a kind of violet-y strip coming across the middle. I think that would be quite nice. So, I'm just, remember, not too far away. And you know, this is one of the things I always think is fascinating. It always starts to look really bad before it looks really good. And I do find this with airbrushing. Sometimes when you're halfway through, you stop and look at it and go, oh my goodness, that looks awful. But actually, it'll look amazing. The secret is to keep going. Don't stop when you think it looks awful. Because if you do, that's when you just give up. So now can you see the motion I'm doing? I'm not airbrushing in straight, lovely lines. I'm doing little movements backwards and forwards because I actually want darker patches. So that's the idea behind this. Don't ever worry about that. And because we're doing a galaxy effect, I always tell you not to overspray. But let me show you what happens if we do overspray. So I'm going to overspray this top corner. Can you see how I've gone quite dark there? And if I just bring it a little bit closer, can you see how it's gone all a little bit dotty? And if I move it, you might be able to see it shining there in the light. So I know that that's really wet. But what you can do, because this is a galaxy effect, let's just get a screwed up piece of tissue and let's just make a pattern. That could be some stars or whatever you want it to be. And don't worry if you don't like it, because we'll just airbrush over the top of it. So I'm really wanting you to just play around here and just get some different effects. And this is one of the effects I like using. So we're going to fold that in half, put that down there, ready. And let's do, I'm going to do a bit more purple actually. I want it to be, sorry, it's not purple, it's violet on here. And these are the chroma colours that I'm using. There we are. So I'm liking that effect, but now let's introduce some blue and teal. I think I'm going to go for blue and teal. So blue first. Now these are pale colours, but I want to keep this one nice and pale. And I'll show you why afterwards, because I'm going to show you one that I've done, which is a little bit darker. So now I'm going to do just some lines. You see, there's no set pattern, there's no wrong or right way of doing this. I love galaxy effects because they're quite forgiving. And can you see, by me doing these little wispy lines, it doesn't actually make it look quite realistic. And I'm going to do some at the top there as well. And then we'll do a gentle shading in the middle. So, there we are. Now have you noticed I've always got my finger on the trigger? When I'm doing the strips as I'm colouring in, I'm pulling back, letting go, pulling back, letting go. And that's how I'm getting this effect. Now I will be giving you practice techniques on that very, very soon. So be aware, it's going to be happening. So don't think you're missing out at all. I do quite like a little bit of lightness coming in. And where we've done this dabbing of colour, let's put some darker bits in there. Let's really go for it. Kind of looks like something shooting, doesn't it, at the moment? But this is where you can let your imagination go. And I always find doing a little bit of homework first on the internet is really good, because you get all these different pictures in your head, which kind of gives you the confidence to go for it. Because if I was doing this and I hadn't looked on the internet first, I'd be panicking over, oh, I don't think it looks right, I don't think it looks okay, but actually it looks fine. I'm going to go a little bit darker here, really building that up. And it is going darker, as you can see. I'm going to just tilt that. You can see it better, I think, if it comes to the light. I like the shading here. A bit more up there. And I do keep using colour. You're going to use, I'm not going to say a lot of colour, but you know, where we're practicing, I'm telling you to put a couple of drops in. Now start putting maybe 10 drops in at a time, because it will start building up. And I quite like these light sections, so we're going to leave those in. Now, if you have a look on the internet at how a lot of people do it, they will add white to their airbrush to lighten areas up. Now, I don't do that because the white can clog your airbrush up. I haven't actually found a good white yet that I'm happy with, so I don't do that. And we're using a white surface anyway, so I just think let's just be a bit more gentle with the colour and let some white come through. So I keep moving it and tilting it because it's a little bit light, and I want to just see the full effect. I'm liking that so far. So now I've decided I don't want to add the orange. It's there, but I don't want to. I'm going to add a little bit more purple. because I like the effect of the purple. Sorry, I keep calling it purple, it's actually violet. I like the effect, I like that colour that it makes. So I'm going to just make sure it's, well, it's already mixed in the airbrush, but that's fine. And I do want that white, so I'm not going to do too much. Again, I'm just tilting it, just making sure. Let's do some more over in that corner. I'm going to just build up a little bit more up here. Have that coming down like so. That's it. Because I think that'll look like a kind of spin-off of this lovely thing that's going on right in the middle here. Liking that? Okay. Now, do I add black? This is the big question, because at the moment it's looking okay, but you can add black if you want to. I might just do a little bit here and there. So I'm just emptying that colour out, putting a little bit of black, but be careful with the black because it's a very harsh colour. So what I am going to say is, instead of spraying too much and going really dark, do it from that distance and get a gentle haze. So I'm just tilting this forward a little bit so I can see in the light. So maybe up here where we made it go quite light before. And if we don't like what we're adding, then just stop. But yeah, go nice and gentle, don't add too much. Maybe let's colour that in. So now you can see you're adding depth to it. And that's coming on nice. And you can see it's grey more than black that I'm introducing. I like that white bit, so we're leaving that. But I'm just adding nice and gently. I think maybe that bit there is way too dark. It looks like a tail, so I want to get rid of this little tail that's going on. So we're going to colour that in. And I'm quite happy to leave that white in the middle. I think that looks really good. What you can do at this point is maybe just add, again, with a bit of tissue as a template, like we did with the galaxy, I've forgotten what it's called. The sunset. I hold this gently and then just, and it just gives me that soft little movement there. Just here and there. So do it coming away. There we are. Okay. That's looking good. And then what we can also do is tilt this. So move it different angles, because you will like or dislike what you see as you're moving it round. So that's quite important. Move it round and see what you like and what you don't like. Now I'm liking that, and I'm actually going to leave it as it is. I'm pleased with that, and I want it quite bright. Now I'll be doing a Facebook Live on this, so you'll be able to see how I finish this off. But at the moment, can you see it's quite wet? As I tilt it, it's really wet. So what I need to do is leave that to dry. It might be dry, so I can bring it back, but I'm just going to put it to one side. And then I'm going to talk to you about a few other things. Right, so my book, Airbrushing on Cakes. Now, this is obviously by me. Got a good selection of all sorts in here, but I'm just going to show you, it has got a galaxy scene in here. Now, the one thing I didn't do on this galaxy, but I'm showing you the book because I should have really. I totally forgot. I'd got my I'd got my sugar paste ready to do a little circle to make planets, and then you can add the planets. So you put all the circles on the cake first, then you airbrush it, and then you peel these planets away to reveal the white. So I just want to show you that, and then you can colour the planets in. So that looks really good. But I got a little bit waylaid with using exciting colours, and that's why I've said that I'm leaving this one a little bit lighter, because I really wanted you to see the difference between the light and the dark. So, and there's the light there. Now you might be wondering how we create the stars. So let's move on to that. So there's different ways of doing this. Now I've already done a plaque here, and this one's quite dark, and on this one I've used greens and blues and violets, and you can see how it's quite dry because it's matte, and I've painted a few stars in there. So really simple to do. Remember, we have just gone over our cake or our sugar paste with colour. So what's underneath? White. That's what colour our stars are. So what we're going to do, in my toolkit here, which let me just get into it. So part of this toolkit, you can see you've got your rolling pin and your scissors and everything for flower making. But these two funny tools at the end are actually for this type of work. So I'm going to pull the spear one out here. And let's just use that for now. And then what we can do is, there's shooting stars there, as you can see. Don't know where to add them really. But shooting stars go in all different directions, don't they? So if I start here, and I'm going to press in and scratch. Now, one quick movement. If you hesitate, it will go a little bit wobbly, so be aware of that. And the other thing is, you can really, can you see how I'm getting all these little dots? And that's how I've done a little sort of comet there that's flying somewhere. So it's quite easy to do. You can really mess around with this. Think about where you want your dots, and then we literally kind of dig in. And it sounds quite brutal, but actually it looks amazing. If I bring that a little bit closer, you can see all of those stars that I've put in there, and I'm looking forward to doing that with the one that's a little bit wet now. So another way is, how do we maybe want to do straight lines on there? There's a couple of options. So to do this kind of star, I did this freehand. Can't you tell? Because it's not very straight. So what I do recommend is you get yourself a palette knife. Excellent for this. And I'm going to hold it down, and I'm using it. Oops, make sure your thing doesn't move like mine. So let's leave that as a shooting star. Let's move down here and draw a line. So that's all I'm doing, is drawing a line. And then I'm going to put it maybe that way. Try and get the middle if you can. And draw another line. So it's quite simple. And then we move away again. Now you're going to see the big difference here between doing freehand and using the tools you have around you. And everyone's got a palette knife. You might not have a thick one like this, but I'm sure you've got a small one. So I'm just going over it a few times to get that line nice and smooth. And you know, when we have cakes and they're on turntables, move them around so that they're in the right position for you. And then, now if you haven't got these tools, don't panic, you can use a scalpel. A scalpel is just as good, but be aware because it's a blade. So be aware, but you can scratch just as well, and it works fine. Now, because I want it to be a bit of a sparkle in the middle, you can just gently dig a little bit out of the middle there, so it looks like it's a bit of a bigger star, like so. And then gently just go down a little bit. There we are. Now I personally find that the downward motion comes more natural to me, so I won't start brushing up, because that's when I kind of, my hand goes everywhere. So what I will do is gently move round and do the same thing. So I'm not panicking over going in the wrong direction. And if this was a cake on a turntable, I'd be doing the same thing. I never try and reach my hand to do things it's not comfortable doing. I always just keep moving the cake. Makes much more sense. Now you can get a big blusher brush and just brush away all these little bits that will come out. But I think that's starting to look quite good. Like so. But you can see the difference between one that I've tried to do by hand, and I'm going to be honest, look at that, that's not even straight, to the one that I've done using the right tool, and it looks beautiful. Now if you did want to use the white, it's totally your option. But if you did want to use the white and create the same kind of star, then again, good old piece of cardboard. This is just a cereal box I've cut out. And can you see I've cut out that star? So I've actually used this as my template. I've held it down and I've cut. And I've cut very, very thin slats. So if I hold that there, you can see just about through it. And that's what my star would be. So that's another good way of doing it. But I don't like putting the white through the airbrush because it does tend to clog it up. And I end up with lots and lots of issues. I can never get it back to how it should be, so I tend to steer clear. Now, another way of doing it is using some white paint. So I'm trying to give you lots of options here so that you can really go for it. So we've used a scalpel. We've used one of the scratchy tools. Very technical, they're actually called an etching tool, but yeah, but you get the effect. Now, the other tools I can use is, I've got magic colours here, and that is a super white Pro gel. So it's very nice. I'll give it a little shake first. And then we open it up. And there's the gel in there. It's just got a big air bubble. So that's the gel in there. And this here, can you see, is a very long paintbrush. Now, it's actually for nail art, but it's absolutely excellent for doing long lines. And if I'm honest with you, that's what I've painted here. And you can see it's got a slightly blue tinge to it because I'm doing it on blue, but it's fine. So I get a tiny bit of, I'm just putting the brush in, getting a little bit of colour on there. And then decide what you want to do, where you want to go. Now, because it's a long brush, let the brush do the work. Don't, worry about that. Let the brush do it for you. Now I've gone up a little bit there, so I would make that into a feature. How are we going to make that into a feature? We're going to make that longer maybe, or let's just do lots and lots of dots so that you can't see that little line. So this is why I'm saying this particular scene is really forgiving. If you go wrong, you can change it. Now I'm going to do a few lines going down. So I just keep putting my brush in there and then really dotting that. But you can see it's got that kind of blue tinge to it because I'm dabbing on blue paint. But that's fine. I'd get away with that. No one's going to tell me off for that. I think that looks good. This is your scene. This is your picture. So you can actually do whatever you want to do in it. I personally like the clusters of stars and how they come in on certain areas. I think it looks quite good. So I will move that to one side. Let's get the white paper. So this is the one where I've done the stars, and you can see it's much darker scene, but that's good on its own. Or this one, which is much paler, whichever way we want to have it. It's much paler looking, but again, I think it looks really good. I like the colours in that one. So this is why I say when you're doing galaxy effects, think about the colours, think about how you want to do it. This one's got greens in it. This one's very much gone to the blues and the violets. But I think they both look great. When this is dry, I will do a bit of scratching and I will put a post on Facebook so that you can all see what this looks like. But I hope you've enjoyed the video and look forward to seeing you soon.